Life is difficult. It's really hard. Often, its pressures and stressors can feel insurmountable. Scaling a mountain can feel more manageable. Celeste is a game about a mountain. It's a game about life. Madeline has a lot on her mind. In search of some clarity, or maybe just some serenity, she travels to the base of Celeste Mountain in the hopes of scaling its peak. It's towering and long abandoned, save for a few colorful characters that Madeline encounters along her journey. After being warned of the mountain's unique properties, she treks onward to begin her ascent, marking the real start of the game. Celeste is a 2D platformer, through and through, tasking you with guiding Madeline through a litany of perils that grow increasingly treacherous the higher that she goes. Introduced almost immediately is a dash ability that allows Madeline to gain extra air once she's jumped off a platform. This ability is vital to progression, as there are countless instances where a standard hop won't provide the height needed to reach the next ledge. Madeline can dash in any direction, which allows the ability to function more flexibly than a simple double jump. It's a mechanic that will eventually require mastery, as the game finds a number of challenging ways in which to make use of it. Madeline can also climb, a skill paramount for one attempting to scale a mountain. She can't do it for long though, so your only hope of covering much ground using this mechanic is to perform the move that rounds out Madeline's suite of capabilities, the wall jump. Climbing is an interesting ability that doesn't feature often in other platformers. In many games it would feel like cheating, but here in Celeste it's demanded in conjunction with her other moves. Get used to jumping, then dashing, then climbing, then jumping before being presented with an entirely different combination. Keeping Madeline's moveset limited allows Extremely OK Games, the developer of Celeste, to really stretch each one out to its fullest potential. While it'll take a few minutes to wrap your head around the flow of the game, Madeline quickly feels like an extension of yourself. The physics of Celeste are pretty much perfect. I struggle to conjure up another 2D platformer from the last decade that feels quite this tight and reliable, which is a good thing, as this game is not for the faint of heart. The first level eases you into the experience fairly gently, but the rigor quickly ramps up thereafter. That being said, the difficulty curve is never too sharp. It never feels like Celeste is throwing more at you than it knows you can handle. Make no mistake, you will die, and die, and die, likely hundreds of times, but I almost never felt frustrated. Checkpoints are doled out liberally, so you never have to retread too much of the same ground, and when you inevitably bite the dust, Madeline responds almost immediately, keeping your downtime minimal. Lives are also absent, so as long as you have the will to climb, you will eventually overcome. Whereas many platformers feature dozens of levels, typically spread across 8 or more worlds, Celeste features only 7 main levels. While that may sound concerning, fear not. Each level is much longer than the 2 to 5 minute length you'd find in many other games. A first climb of Celeste can easily run 8 to 10 hours, but that time will vary considerably depending upon your skill level. Tucked away in each stage is a cassette tape that, if acquired, unlocks a B-side companion level. These stages ratchet up the difficulty considerably, so you'll need to be on your A-game if you intend to combat them. Completing those levels unlocks even more post-game stages that crank up the intensity even further. Surmounting everything this game has to offer will demand platforming prowess of the highest order. That's not even to mention the dozens of collectible strawberries hidden throughout the game, which are entirely optional, so if you don't possess a penchant for vitamin C, you can skip right past them. Celeste may have quantity, but that's all for naught without the quality. Thankfully, the game's got that covered too. Celeste features Peerless level design. Each stage feels entirely distinct from the last thanks to environmental variety and varied mechanics. One level tasks you with tidying up an abandoned hotel, while another finds you lost inside an ancient temple of mirrors. Despite all taking place on the same mountain, no two levels look alike, nor do they play the same way. Madeline's moveset is a constant, but Celeste is never afraid to throw new external mechanics to alter the flow of progression. For example, one level features platforms that move every time Madeline dashes, while another features persistent gusts of wind that make it harder to cover ground. There are plenty of other noteworthy level elements I won't mention here, but there's one particular moment in Stage 1 that really caught me off guard. Madeline meets a character named Theo, a charismatic adrenaline junkie looking for some adventure. They converse for a while by the fire. This scene serves a few purposes. It introduces Theo, sheds more light on Madeline, and begins to reveal that this is no ordinary platformer. A bit further on, during level 2, Madeline stumbles onto a mirror where she frees what appears to be some kind of doppelganger. In a sense, it is. This freed apparition is a physical manifestation of Madeline's darkest, most self-deprecating thoughts. Some kind of amalgamation of anxiety or depression or self-doubt. It's, or she's, everything Madeline doesn't want to face, but now she's unshackled, and she's not just a narrative threat, but a mechanical one. At certain junctures, Madeline, as she's known colloquially, actually serves as a level obstacle. If she or one of her attacks comes into contact with Madeline, it's back to the last checkpoint, just as if she fell into a pit of spikes. As Madeline continues to confront and sabotage Madeline, it becomes increasingly clear that Celeste places significant emphasis on its story. This bucks a huge trope of platformers, a genre in which narrative is often brushed aside in favor of a more immediate, straightforward experience. Celeste charts its own course, always willing to pause the action to develop its characters. One standout moment occurs about midway through the game. Stuck on a gondola with Theo, Madeline begins to suffer from a panic attack. The screen grows more sinister as she falls more deeply into its clutches. Desperate to help, Theo suggests that Madeline envision a feather. He wills her to focus her breath on the feather, imagining that she can keep the feather afloat if she manages the pace of her breathing. As the player, you're then tasked with holding down a button in time with the feather. It's a powerful, quiet moment, and is a great example of how adeptly Celeste manages to balance being a compelling game with telling an effective story. That's what makes Celeste so unique and special. For as remarkable as it is, Celeste wouldn't make half the impact it does without its absolutely marvelous soundtrack. Composed by Lena Raine, the music of Celeste is at one moment uplifting, gentle the next, and dire the moment after. Weaving retro chiptune with modern piano, each track is an absolute home run. It's energizing and evocative. Hearing music like this reminds me just how good it can be. Lena Raine deserves the utmost praise for her work. Video games possess a few common associations: conflict, high scores, shooting. What about themes of mental health, perfectionism, finding a purpose? Historically, video games haven't tackled such topics, but Celeste isn't afraid to do so. These are real, ubiquitous issues affecting almost everyone on Earth in some way or another. My own mental health has seen too many ups and downs to count. To play a game that addresses these issues with maturity and sensitivity is incredibly exciting. The medium of video games has certainly gotten older. increasing the frequency of violence in the hopes of appealing to an aging demographic, but it's only been more recently, largely thanks to experiences like this, that video games have actually started to grow up. Perhaps most impressive about Celeste is that despite telling such an innovative and memorable story, it never forgets to be one of the tightest, most satisfying platformers I've ever played. When it's not putting you through your paces, it's making you laugh, think, or even cry with sharply written dialogue uttered by wonderful characters. In a nutshell, it pushes the genre forward. Reaching the peak of Mount Celeste is difficult. It's really hard. At times, it will feel insurmountable. But it's not. And it's worth it.